Welcome back. Now, prior to Ismail Haniyeh's death, there's been to and from with regards to negotiations for the ceasefire, with many trips being made either to Qatar or to Egypt for it to happen. And one would look at it as Ismail Haniyeh, who was seen as one of the main negotiators, he's now been martyred. The other one was seen as Yahya Sinwar. He's now been martyred. So the question comes along, is Israel really willing to negotiate any ceasefire deal? Are they really willing to take any conversations for stopping the genocide that is happening in Gaza? Well, clearly it doesn't seem that way. So the question is the Middle East reaching a new boiling point after the assassination of Yahya Sinwar? Joining me now, I'd like to welcome Muna Tareh, no stranger to the channel. She was part of the October the 7th panel discussion, academic, Middle Eastern political analyst, who of course is from Columbia University, and she joins us from Detroit, Michigan. Muna, always a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Muna, I think it's quite clear, Israel's not interested in any way of not just negotiating for a ceasefire, but quite frankly, they're looking at expanding more and more. And the proof is in the pudding, as they would say, when you look at what is happening right now in northern Gaza.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. I mean, and this is no surprise. I mean, if we look at throughout history, we know that what kind of formation is Israel. Israel is truly. Israel is a settler colonial entity that basically is predicated on the idea of terminating the indigenous inhabitants of a land and exchange, and replacing it with another. So settler colonialism is a particularly vicious kind of set of colonial formation, because it really negates the history of the people. It actually does not recognize their actual existence, this is why the reason why, for example, Israel has always negated that Palestinians had the right to self-determination. When you negate that, you're basically saying that, they never even, Palestinians don't exist. So, it's negating the history, it's negating the existence of the Palestinian, and it's all about acquisition of land. So what we are seeing today, the genocide that we are seeing today, is actually should not be surprising if we know the nature of the Zionist entity.
Muna, if you are Hamas senior leader right now, whoever you are, and obviously the Qatari Amir, various leaders within the Middle East are saying, let's go back to the negotiating table. You're having second thoughts, aren't you, given that there seems to be a lack of not just determination from Israel, but transparency, because it's clear Israel has not been transparent over the last year in terms of trying to find any supposed ceasefire agreement.
Well, yes, but what makes this particularly an interesting question is the fact that this particular case, in this particular example, and this particular time in history, what is going on right now in Gaza, and how basically the Gaza situation and the Gaza genocide has invoked a solidarity amongst what we call the axis of resistance between, ranging from Lebanon to Iraq to Yemen to Iran. All of these, countries are now in support of the sumud, or the resilience of the Palestinians having experiencing genocide. But what makes this all the more important is that it makes it like almost like a zero-sum game, in the sense that Israel cannot afford to lose this war. If Israel lost this war, it will lose its ability to resolve. It loses its ability. This idea of the army that is never defeated would actually tarnish. Which I would even go to argue to the extent that I would argue that Israel's image of this powerful nation with a strong military presence in the area was basically destroyed on October 7th. So for Israel to be able to restore that, it has to come up on top. And this makes it a very this knowledge makes it it's not something that I'm the only one aware of. The Hamas leadership is also aware of. So and for Hamas and if I was in the negotiating table, I would understand those dynamics, and I would make sure that even if there was a negotiation to happen, that these negotiations would also come on my terms, not just on Israel's terms. So it would be important for me to equally come out as a winner, as Israel would hope to come out of that. But unfortunately, the nature of the situation right now, I mean, the reason why Israel has resorted in the past few months to their vicious assassination spree, is an indicator that it actually has no solution. What we have to understand that for military, for asymmetrical warfares, especially with guerrilla warfares, the way we are witnessing right now in Gaza, there are no technological, or even military solution for these liberation movements, no matter what Israel does. So regardless of all the military artisanry that Israel has, no matter of all the US backing that she enjoys, they still can't find a solution for the Palestinian resistance movement. And this puts them in kind of an awkward situation where, okay, so how do we go out of this situation that we put ourselves in? Because if we continue the way we are today, we are only basically prolonging the war more, would only first of all, it would only intensify the divisions inside. It exposes our failure, mainly in the fact that we failed to deliver on our promises. We failed to, for example, to return the hostages. We failed, for example, to have the settlers on the northern borders also return to their homes. As a matter of fact, Netanyahu himself now is cannot go back to his house within, because of what happened a couple of days ago. So they would have to disguise these also failures, and they also have to make sure, and this prolonged war is also very costly for them. And although they do enjoy the backing and the military support and financial support of the US, all of these supports cannot replace the soldiers that are being killed right now on the battlefield. Each soldier costs them millions of dollars to actually train. You have soldiers that are been trained for years, that are in high commands, that are right now being assassinated. This is something that does not equally affect the resistance movement, because with the Israeli army, they have high tech equipment, military that needs training, pilots needs years and years, and so. But with the resistance movement, and the guerrilla warfare, the training that is needed is extremely minimal and very basic comparing to the Israeli soldiers. So now you're also draining the Israeli soldiers who are afraid to be recalled again to go on the front. You have people who are getting into psychological breakdowns and post-war stress syndromes, and committing suicide and so forth. While on the other hand, our resistance is only solidified. Our martyrdom, the image of the Sinwar death, and the way he died, the way he did, actually solidified this deep commitment to resisting settler colonialism. On one hand, Israel was trying to market the death of the killing of the Sinwar as a win. It was saying that, oh, we killed him or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, Sinwar came to them. They didn't come to Sinwar. The fact of the matter is, when they killed Sinwar, he was in his military attire, with his guns and whatever military equipment that he had on, fighting until the last possible minute. So he basically falsified every single narrative that Israel tried to explain its failure for its ability to actually assassinate him or get to him a year later, by saying that he is underground, by saying that he is always surrounding himself with hostages, so we can't get to him. So Israel, on one hand was trying to bluster about getting to him, but it actually came to bite it in the rear, because the way he died signified everything that is brave, signified everything that is moral, signified everything that is an indicator of a commitment to the liberation of Palestine. You have leaders who are not afraid to be on the front line. You have leaders, our leaders are not afraid to put their sons and daughters on the front lines. Their leaders will give orders from bunkers. There's a huge difference that this asymmetrical warfare, if understood from the Western lens, takes for granted the ideological commitment that grounds, these resistance movements, particularly in the religious morality of things.
Muna, I have to get one question in. We are running a bit out of time. There's a 2021 interview from Al Jazeera where Yahya Sinwar says that, look, this was when the 2021 Gaza genocide was happening. And he said, look, we're willing to come to the table. I then hear, of course, Al-Hayya, who is now, looks like he's going to become the new political head of Hamas, saying, look, we'll come to the negotiating table unless, first of all, the release of Palestinian prisoners happen, the genocide stops, Israel is held accountable. When you juxtapose what had happened in 2021 to what is happening now, it's clear Israel is not going to go ahead and accept any of those terms because that's just within their nature. For anyone living under the rock, this may seem to be, looking at it, Israel now seems to be getting more better, becoming much more of a villain, whereas the resistance becomes much more stronger and seems to have that heroic figure to it. It seems that way, doesn't it, Muna? I've got 2 minutes. I'll get an answer out of you with regards to that.
In some ways, yes, what you're saying is yes, but it's also very important not to underestimate the weight and the capabilities of the Israeli intelligence, of the Israeli military strength, and Israeli backing of the West. All of these things are very, very, very hard to to come over or persevere. So while our resistance is solidified, we have to understand that the reason why it is solidified, regardless of the situation, is because Hamas itself is deeply embedded in the social structure of Gaza. The Hamas resistance people, soldiers, are mothers, fathers, sons of, they have daughters, mothers and so forth. So they are part and parcel. So in that sense, they will continue to enjoy this popular credo that only solidifies their ability, their resilience, and their ability to move on. And let's also not forget that Hamas is a very established organization which has an organization structure. So unlike what Israel hopes is that by assassinations, it will actually disrupt this organizational structure. It creates diffusion, chaos, ununity. We've seen throughout history, from the assassination of its founder, Yassin, until today, that the continuity was very smooth, was seamless. There was no disruption in command, unlike what Israel had hoped to accomplish. So every single thing that Israel had hoped to accomplish in terms of strategically military might, we'd have to say that it was very limited in its accomplishment in that sense. Versus, we know for us, for Palestinians, we know that it's either we resist or we die.
Muna, always a pleasure having you on here on News in Focus on Hilaal TV. Much appreciated. Shukran so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You're welcome. Anytime.
That's Muna Tareh, academic Middle Eastern political analyst, coming to us from Detroit, Michigan. Something that just poignant. It stands out. You can destroy the leaders, you can destroy the individuals, but you'll never destroy the idea. And that just shows it right over there, that the resistance continues despite everything that is happening. And there are hundreds and thousands of Ismail Haniyehs and Yahya Sinwars across Gaza. That's all we have for you on News in Focus. From myself, Faraz Patel, and the rest of the team in Johannesburg. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.